Alright, good evening folks. Welcome back to another episode with Mountain Prep. Last week we went over e-scouting just very generally. It was a pretty long video. I did not want to get into the specifics on every little thing. I just want to give you kind of a broad overview. This week I want to give you a little more specifics on evaluating benches and evaluating glassing spots, so essentially OPs, observation posts. Now, I'm not going to make this video super long. Every week I'm going to go a little more in depth on each one of the topics we covered in the general video. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and if you don't mind, please go ahead and hit the like and subscribe if you like the content. It really helps me stay motivated to continue to put out more videos. Alright, let's jump into it. And I'll put the link to the video from last week in the description down below. I recommend that you watch that video before you proceed with this video. I think you need to have that solid base of evaluating trailheads and zones of pressure and basic needs of elk. We'll jump right into it. We're in the same area last week that we're in, and we're also using Google Earth Pro with the overlays we downloaded from Toprut, and I'll put all those links in the description below as well. Alright, here we go. So this is the area we're in last week, and if you remember, we went ahead and identified our zones of pressure from our trailheads and also our trails. Then we broke it down into different areas of interest. We evaluated each one of those areas of interest just very vaguely to see if they met the basic needs of elk, which they did. So now let's dive a little more deep into that. Now, I'm going to primarily be hunting during archery season. I do not use a lot of glassing during that time. I'm more of a spot and stalk, I want to get in their bedroom and party with them type of hunter. Where, late season, I'm going to go back up and hunt cow elk during second rifle. So obviously that'd be a glassing game because elk will be in sanctuary mode at that point in time. They're going to be, hit up high in some of this stuff. They're going to not be moving a whole lot, so glassing is going to be the name of the game. Okay, so we talked about last week how we should make a play to come in this backside. Maybe we could work up this ridge you see right here, and then use this as a ambush spot. So what I want to do first is go ahead and identify, okay, this is Dome's Peak. Let's go ahead and turn those map layers on so we can get a good look at the contours. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to turn on those contours and roads. There we go. We got the contours on. Okay, now that we have those on, let's start evaluating this, right out the gate. So we talked about working in here and working up this ridge. We identified last week we have this saddle right here. Right here is a peak. Here's a peak. We have this saddle, and how this trail is very heavily used on the front side, so we're thinking the elk might push up and use this saddle and drop in on this backside. However, there's a lot of good feed up here, and I think this ridge would be a really good glassing point to be able to see all through here and see back through here. So what I'm looking for in an observation point is, right, what is my actual area view? What is my observation? If I get up on top of here and it's real thick timber and I don't have any patches where I can actually see out, or it's not a quite steep enough slope, it's so gentle that you can't really see out, it doesn't really do you any good, right? So what you're looking for, you don't necessarily always want to be on the very top of the hill, but I would say the top 3/4 of the hill is where I try to focus. If I'm going to be glassing, I'm going to be setting up. And I also try to plan, several different ways in and different ways out, because you never know, you might see elk on this front side and that was your way in. You don't want to go back out this way, right? Because you don't want to bump them, so you're going to need to plan your route out this way or vice versa. So having different area, routes in and routes out of an area, I think is key. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here, and I'm going to switch to 3D mode, and we're going to get down here at ground level and start evaluating this stuff. And we see, just based on the contours, right? You see how it's a bench here. We talked about this last week, right? This could be possibly good bedding for the elk. You see how it's kind of flattened off right here on this ridge, and it's not so steep, not so steep. And then, of course, we have this saddle, and it's a little bit higher here. I kind of like this point here, to be honest. I think you're going to be able to see down in this bowl. You're going to be able to see all of this, and you're going to be able to see all this. And the reason for that is you see the elevation gain right here, and then it drops off steeply. So let's go ahead and turn back off this contour, and let's go ahead and look at this terrain a little bit. So with Google Earth, if you hold control and you use the ball and your mouse, you can go ahead and get a 360 view like this of your points. I think that's very handy. Also, you can move up and down by just holding on your left click like this. Let off control, and then you can zoom into an area. You see here, we have this area right here, this little ridge right here. It's got a heavy used game trail, and that's going to give us a pretty good field of view. So we come back here and then we zoom in. I like to get down on the spot as best I can, and then I like to look around and see, okay, what can I actually see? Holding control, you can go ahead and turn 360 degrees. So I can definitely see that front side for sure. Looks like I got eyes on this meadow we talked about earlier that we really want to check out, and this meadow here with all this green. You see we have our creeks running through here. That's important. We got their bedding. That's going to be all back through here. And we're going to be able to see this front side and all this meadow and good feed up in here. And you should be able to have a good field of view up here into area of observation A. As far as seeing the backside, it looks like we'll have some good view out the backside as well. Now, what I don't like about this spot, you really only got one way in, one way out. You got to walk this ridge, right? And we've already talked about, we think they're using this saddle right here. You see this? High spot, this saddle to transition back and forth. So, I mean, it's a good observation post, but I don't like it. I think you're going to bump elk, to be honest with you. Let's go over here and evaluate this other area. So this was the other ridge top we were talking about. We have this ridge right here. It's super bare, right? And you see how it drops off in elevation, like this, the high point, then drops off. See that when we throw the contours back on here as well. Let the overlay load. You see right here, and then it drops down to this flat spot. I almost wonder if we can tuck in on this flat spot, maybe somewhere right in here. See, we're still at a higher elevation right here than these trees. So you should have a field of view right in here in this tree line. You should be able to get it tucked in here and be able to have a good field of view. Now, you won't be able to see out your backside for sure. It will limit you. So, you know, this might be a situation where you have a buddy on one side of the ridge and, you know, you're on the other side of the ridge so you can cover all areas, or you're moving back and forth. But it looks like you'll have good field of view from right here. You'll have multiple ways in and out. You'll have visibility on this meadow down below with this creek running through it that we talked about earlier. You got the main trail going in. You'll be able to see if there's people going in, putting pressure on the front side, so you know if you got a chance at this saddle working out over here to your left. So that's all positive. Got multiple ways in, multiple ways out. Got a good observation, and it looks like you're going to have a clear field of view. Now, that's not to say it's going to work out perfectly. When I was in the Army, I was a fort observer, and one thing we always trained on was something called slock top, and it's what we use essentially to select our observation post. You can do the best that you can do by doing a map spot and trying to pinpoint a location, but it never actually looks like that when you get there. So have a general area picked out and then refine it once you actually get there. But I just moved out and I looked back at this observation post, and you can see we have this decrease right here that we just talked about, right? So we're at a higher elevation, should be clear. You can tuck into these trees to provide some concealment. So this might be an great OP. You can come in this front side, you can come in the back side. So I really like the way this thing looks. I'll go ahead and get a 360 degree view there. What I want to do now, go ahead and go up, come back down. I want to go ahead and drop a glassing icon on that as a potential OP. So I'm going to go right here, going to move this bad boy right there, hit save, boom. And we'll work on refining that as we go on. So now we've identified potential observation post. That gives us the ability to get good glassing into area of interest B and A. We can go over the backside and see C. Next, I want to go ahead and evaluate the benches a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my contours back on. There it is. So again, if we just try to look at this thing big picture, here's OP1. We have several routes in, several routes out. This is a good bench right here in front of us. So this could be potential elk bedding, and we need to be cautious of that, right? Especially if it's early season and they're not in sanctuary mode yet. They're going to be bedding down on that bench if they're in that area. So we want to think about that with the thermals. If we have wind coming up, wind coming down, that may not be the best OP for us. It may make sense if I'm going out a day before season starts. I'm just trying to use my glass to cover a lot of ground versus my legs to come around somewhere on this front side and set up my OP so I can still get eyes on this area, but I'm not worried about blowing these elk out by putting my scent in there. I always like to look at my benches that are around my OP and be cognizant of that. We also have some on this backside as well with this potential OP, but we kind of ruled this one out. So with that being said, we should probably start thinking about, can I get up over here somewhere? And it looks like we have these really defined trails we could just get up here somewhere and park. And that gives us the ability to observe this entire area out as well. So always check your benches when you're done selecting your OP. All right, this wraps up this week's episode. Thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate it. If you like the content, please go ahead and like and subscribe below. It really helps me stay motivated to put out more. We got about 25 days left, so it's really getting crunch time. I got about 15 days of training left, and then I'm going to start my 10-day taper. Things are going really well this year. I put in roughly 1,200 miles on the road since last October and have slung countless arrows. I'm really starting to kick up how much I'm shooting, going to the 3D range, working on different angles, shooting from elevation, shooting down, shooting up, shooting with my full gear on, my pack, so everything's really dialed for the season. I'll start my taper in, roughly 15 days, let my body recover for 10, and then I'm going to hit it hard those first couple weeks of September, and hopefully we can get one on the ground here. If you like this content, I really encourage y'all to go check out Elk Bros. They got a ton of great content on e-scouting and also on vital shot placement for elk. They got a ton of experience, been doing archery elk for decades and been successful in public land. So I really encourage everyone to go check them out. Y'all have a great week. Thank you.